Okay, so picture this. A young woman, quiet, unassuming, the kind of person you trust with, well, anything, really.
Seems harmless enough, right?
Exactly. But now, imagine this same woman is convicted of murdering 7 infants.
And attempting to kill 6 others.
This is the story of Lucy Letby. And, well, it's a story that really shocked Britain. And today we're diving deep, deep into this case.
It's one of those cases that just gets under your skin, you know? It's a reminder that evil can hide anywhere, even in the places we think are safe.
Absolutely. So we'll be going through the timeline of her crimes, looking at the evidence, and trying to understand, well, the big question, why?
Yeah, the why is always the hardest part, isn't it? We might not ever have a clear answer, but we can at least try to piece together what happened.
Right. So let's start at the beginning. Letby worked at the Countess of Chester Hospital. What was it like?
Pretty ordinary, to be honest. Normal hospital, serving its community. But within the neonatal unit, things were, well, far from normal.
Before 2015, the hospital's infant mortality rate was, average.
Yeah. Pretty standard. But then things changed. There was this sudden, dramatic spike in infant deaths and collapses. Imagine the fear, the confusion among the staff, the families. It was just awful.
And at the center of all of this was Lucy Letby.
Right. So let's take a look at baby a twin boy. He was premature, but doing okay, breathing on his own. But then right after Letby starts her shift, his condition just tanks.
Tanks? Like how?
Within an hour and a half, baby A was dead. The cause of death, air injected into his bloodstream.
You're saying intentionally injected?
That's what the prosecution argued, and the jury agreed. But this wasn't just a one-off thing. Just 28 hours later, his twin sister, baby B, has a similar collapse.
So 2 babies, twins, both with these unexplained medical crises, both while Letby was caring for them. You'd think someone would have suspected something, right?
Well, there were whispers, concerns among the staff. A doctor even raised the alarm about Letby, but tragically, no formal investigation.
Hold on. 2 infant deaths, a doctor expressing concern, and the hospital does nothing.
It's a perfect example of how easy it is to miss, or worse, ignore warning signs. And that brings us to baby C.
Another premature baby.
Yeah.
10 weeks early, right? What happened?
Baby C's case is really disturbing because he showed signs of life on and off for hours, even after they stopped trying to revive him. Imagine the parents holding on to that hope only to have it taken away.
I can't even imagine. And through all of this, Letby was there.
She was the only other person in the room when baby C's condition went south. And later, it turned out he likely died from air injected into his stomach.
Okay, so we've got multiple deaths, breathing problems, and Letby is there for each one. It's more than just coincidence, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just her presence. Her behavior afterwards was, well, odd. She was constantly searching for the families on Facebook, sending weird texts to colleagues, and I don't know, just this strange fascination with the grieving parents.
So multiple infant deaths, Letby's always there, and then this creepy behavior, and still nothing from the hospital.
You'd think that would be enough, wouldn't you? But sadly, no. There were at least 3 separate times when doctors raised concerns about Letby, connecting her to the deaths. 3 missed warnings.
3? How could they miss that many warnings?
That's the million-dollar question. Was it fear of a scandal? Were they just unable to believe that one of their own could do something so terrible? Or was it just plain incompetence?
We need to get to the bottom of those missed warnings. How could a hospital fail so badly at keeping its patients safe?
We will. But first, let's talk about baby D, because that's where things start to get even more disturbing.
It's hard to wrap your head around, someone intentionally harming these tiny babies.
And it gets worse, actually. It seems like over time, Letby's methods, they escalated.
You mentioned baby D. What was different about her case?
Well, unlike the others, baby D wasn't premature. She was actually healthy until a mistake, a hospital error, landed her in the neonatal unit.
So just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, tragically. And it put her right in Letby's path. Baby D had 3 collapses overnight. Each time, obvious distress. But even with medical help, she died.
God, it's like something out of a horror movie. Except this is real life. Real families going through this.
And it's so important to remember that, behind every baby A, baby B, baby C, there's a family whose lives have been shattered.
Absolutely. You said Letby's methods escalated. What did they find out about how she harmed baby D?
Well, this is where we see evidence of Letby using insulin. And then her next victim, baby E, a twin boy, his mother actually found him bleeding from the mouth, clearly in distress. But Letby, the nurse on duty, basically dismissed her concerns.
Dismissed her. What did she say?
Something like, "Trust me, I'm a nurse." Can you imagine that? As a mother, knowing something is wrong, but being told to ignore your instincts by the person who's supposed to be helping?
It's sickening. And baby E.
He had a massive bleed and died. The medical experts believe Letby probably messed with his feeding tube, injected air, caused the bleed.
It's like she was getting more confident, bolder, even gaslighting the parents.
And the whole time, the hospital is still doing nothing to protect these babies.
Okay, let's talk about those missed warnings. You said there were 3.
Right. So the first one, July 2015, just a month after baby A died, Dr. Stephen Breyer, he was the consultant in the neonatal unit. He saw the pattern. He told the nursing director about Letby, how she was always there when these babies died.
So they knew there was a problem right from the start.
Yes, but no investigation. Then, October 2015, another consultant, Dr. Ravi Jayaram, he also raised concerns. Went straight to hospital management, but they basically told him to drop it.
Drop it. Over infant deaths. Are you serious?
I know, it's crazy, right? And then, the third warning, February 2016, an independent review found a clear link between the deaths and Letby being there. But even then, the hospital waited months before doing anything.
It's like they were more worried about looking bad than protecting their patients.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way, especially the families of the victims. And while the hospital was dragging its feet, Letby continued. Baby F, the twin brother of baby E, she targeted him too, used insulin again. Then she attacked baby G twice, leaving the baby with severe disabilities.
So not just murder, but attempted murder too. Leaving a child permanently disabled. It's just, I don't even have the words.
It's hard to comprehend, isn't it? Why would someone do something like that? Some people think she got some kind of, I don't know, twisted sense of power from it. Like she was playing God, reviving babies, then letting them die.
But even that, it doesn't really explain it, does it? Why target babies in the first place?
That's the big mystery, isn't it? Letby never gave a reason, said she was innocent the whole time, but then when the police searched her house, they found all this evidence.
What kind of evidence?
Notes with creepy phrases like, "I am evil, I did this." She even had the baby's medical info written down. And, get this, they found a note that said, "Killing me softly," hidden in her garage.
It's like she was documenting it all, almost bragging about it.
That's definitely the impression you get. And the whole time, outwardly, she was acting completely normal. Vacations, salsa classes, like nothing was wrong.
A double life. It's terrifying, really. Makes you wonder how many other victims might there have been if she hadn't been stopped.
It's a scary thought, and it really highlights how bad the hospital messed up by not acting sooner. Finally, after baby O and baby P died, they were twin triplets, Dr. Breyer insisted Letby be taken off the unit.
It seems like it took so much tragedy before anyone did anything. What happened to the triplets?
They both had sudden collapses, no explanation, while Letby was caring for them. Baby P's case is particularly awful. A doctor who'd been hopeful about his recovery, he remembers Letby saying something like, "He's not leaving here alive, is he?" just before the baby died.
God, that's chilling. Like she was taunting them or something?
Yeah, it's really disturbing. It makes you wonder about, what was going on in her head. Was it a need for control? Did she want to be able to predict these tragedies? It's hard to say.
So finally, Letby's removed from the unit. The police start investigating. And eventually, she's arrested, charged with murder, attempted murder. But what about the hospital? Did anyone there face any consequences for not doing anything?
That's what a lot of people want to know. There's been talk of a public inquiry to look into how the hospital handled it all, see if they were negligent or if there was a cover-up. Dr. Jayam, one of the doctors who tried to raise the alarm, he's been really vocal about the need for more accountability, especially for NHS management.
And Letby herself, what did she say during the trial?
She kept saying she was innocent, that the babies died from natural causes or it was the hospital's fault. But the jury didn't believe her. She was found guilty on 7 counts of murder and 6 of attempted murder.
It's just horrific. What was her sentence?
She got a whole life order. That means she'll be in prison for the rest of her life. It's really rare in the UK, only for the worst crimes.
So at least there's some justice. But for the families, the pain of losing a child, that never really goes away. And the fact that the hospital could have prevented it, that makes it even worse.
It's a terrible tragedy all around. It just shows how easily evil can hide, even in someone we trust. And how systems that are supposed to protect us, they can fail.
It really makes you think, how could this happen? How do we make sure hospitals are safe, especially for babies? And how do we learn to recognize the warning signs so we can stop something like this before it happens again?
Those are important questions. And not just for the medical field, but for all of us. We need to be
Mhm.
open to talking about these things, make sure people feel safe speaking up, and be willing to question things when they don't seem right.
I mean, it's unbelievable that it went on for so long. Like how could someone get away with this for so long in a place like a neonatal unit?
Yeah, you really have to wonder about the hospital itself, don't you? They just didn't want to believe it seems like. They didn't want to accept that one of their own, a nurse, could do such a thing.
But the signs were all there, weren't they? The statistics, the doctors raising concerns. Leppy's behavior, how could they ignore it all?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Some people say they were afraid of lawsuits, not wanting to admit fault. But others think it was more about just trusting her too much, like a blind spot, because they saw her as this harmless person.
Whatever the reason, it cost lives, didn't it? And while the hospital's messing around, Leppy just kept going. Remember those triplets? Baby O and Baby P.
Yeah, Baby P's case is really hard to forget. One of the doctors, he'd been so optimistic about the baby's recovery, but then right before Baby P died, he remembers Letby saying something like, "He's not going to make it, is he?"
Ugh. It's like she was getting some kind of sick pleasure out of it. Just awful.
It's really messed up, isn't it? It makes you wonder what was going through her head. Did she need that sense of control? Did she want to be the one who decided who lived and died? We'll probably never know for sure.
It's scary to think about. Anyway, thankfully, after the triplets died, Dr. Breyer, the one who'd been warning them about Leppy, he finally said, enough is enough. She had to be taken off the unit.
You'd think that would be obvious by then, right? But even then, some people at the hospital still defended her, tried to downplay what was happening. It's crazy how strong denial can be, even when all the evidence is staring you right in the face.
It really shows how important it is to speak up, especially when something this serious is going on. But in the end, thankfully, justice was served. The police started investigating, Letby was arrested, and they found those notes at her house where she basically admitted to everything.
That trial must have been so tough for everyone involved, especially for the families of the babies. To have to go through all of that again, hear all those details about how their children died, it's unimaginable. And Lippy, through it all, she just kept saying she was innocent, even tried to blame the hospital. But the jury saw right through it.
And she was found guilty, right? 7 counts of murder, 6 of attempted murder. What a horrifying record.
The judge didn't hold back when he sentenced her. He called her actions cruel, calculated, and cynical, and he gave her a whole life order. That means she'll never get out of prison. It's the toughest sentence they have in the UK, and she deserves it.
Well, at least there's some justice for the families, even though nothing can really make up for what they've lost. And it's just so sad that the hospital could have prevented this if they'd only listened.
The whole thing is just heartbreaking, really. It shows us that evil can hide anywhere, even in the people we're supposed to trust the most. And it shows us that even the systems we rely on to keep us safe, they can fail, and sometimes with terrible consequences.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you question how we can make sure this never happens again. How do we make hospitals safer, especially for babies? And how do we learn to spot those warning signs so we can speak up before it's too late?
These are questions we all need to think about, not just doctors and nurses, but everyone. We need to be more open to talking about these difficult things, create environments where people feel safe speaking up, and be willing to question things when something doesn't seem right.
The Lucy Letby case may be over, but the conversation it started is so important. We need to keep talking about patient safety, about accountability, and about making sure that people in positions of power listen when someone tries to raise a red flag.
We really hope this deep dive has been eye-opening for you, even if it was a bit unsettling to listen to. It's a tough topic, but it's one we need to face. Keep learning about this case and others like it. Be aware of what's happening in the world around you, and think critically about the systems you're part of in your own life. It could make all the difference.
Thank you for joining us today. It's been a heavy journey, but it's so important to shine a light on these dark corners. And hopefully, by facing these difficult realities, we can work towards a future where tragedies like this are less likely to happen.